What's up, YouTube and Facebook buddies? I'm looking a little rough as I'm looking here on the screen, but I've been outside all day, sweating, getting sunburned, so I'm not too worried about my image in that regard. But I wanted to also just kind of talk about some of the basics of garden to table living. And, farm to table has been a big thing for a long time. But in all honesty, who has the physical capability, the space, the time, the devotion, and say the location to have a farm? And to me, the garden is a more diverse and basically um, attainable type goal and more practical, let's just say, especially for, say, a city dweller, apartment person with maybe all you have is your little balcony that gets some sun. You're going to have a container garden. And what can we do with that? Quite a bit. I wanted to talk about kind of a lot of the different styles, maybe, and how that would fit into a lifestyle, or say, like, your different scenarios. Like the apartment dweller with some sunshine, and you probably don't even have a hose, but you would use a watering can. You can have quite a container garden. You could have some nice tomatoes and peppers during that growing season. You could have some flower planters full of greens mixed with edible flowers, plenty of herbs, in just maybe an 8-foot wide space. So, and you wouldn't want to be packing too much weight onto there or having to haul too much water. But you could live the kind of that lifestyle, especially as just a single individual with just an apartment. So really, if you could do it in that situation, you could do it in any situation. If you had no outside access, you could maybe use a window and a supplemental fluorescent or LED light to have maybe a small herb garden in your kitchen and cooking area. And that would probably be the most bare bones setup and most practical for that kind of situation. Now, just the person with a backyard, if you have a backyard of any kind, you can be doing something. Um, Even if, say, it's not your long-term thing where you can't set up beds, maybe you're renting, you could have a few flower pots. You could have yourself a little table like that, and you can work off of that. Just a little folding table. You could do what you want. You could have a little bonsai garden, herb garden, whatever. Learn how to set things up where you could easily take it apart. Like some of the flower beds we have, they took minimal effort. They're good size, they're sturdy. But if I needed to sell this house, I could take those apart, scoop the dirt away, mulch over it. It's gone in one weekend, all of them. And there's a bunch of them. So you may want a more permanent setup for, whatever reason you may want something more solid long term. Every scenario, there is options. So part of this garden to table living series will be kind of exploring maybe all the different options. Here we're on a 1-acre property. Most of this 1 acre is not usable in many ways, but it can be used in many ways also, but you can't use it for growing on most of this space. So I have my grow areas. I have about 3 or 4 different grow areas. I have water access to all those areas running off our well. So I've got basically hose lines that go 200-300 yards. So I would like to perfect that, because right now that situation, just the irrigation is running all the way down this way and around a road, where eventually I want to come off the backside here and run it down here. It'll be much shorter and to the point, and I could have, you know, multiple scenarios as far as having hoses, drip lines, and then hopefully eventually water storage containers coming off this roof and into tanks. So that's my situation. So I've learned I can do quite a bit with, there are some limitations, but you have to just be flexible and work with those limitations. And one thing that's very popular right now is permaculture. And there's a lot to it, but it's basically revolves around energy flow. And maybe not also conventional farming, but food forests. And then there's a lot of, say, no-till and using livestock to create compost, clear areas with livestock, and then maybe come in another season or year and then plant on that area. Or just like the most simple thing would be having your chicken coop set up, and then you've got a composting area, and you may even have a worm bed. And say debris could be flowing into the chicken coop, which later could be shoveled into a compost area, which later also maybe supplementing a earthworm bed, where you're creating a somewhat closed system some way. Well, and then not everyone has access to so much space or resources. Something that my wife and I talk about is, we call it permascaping, which would be kind of that agricultural or permaculture concepts mixed more with landscaping on, say, a smaller, more practical scale, tailored towards your home or property that may not be, say, an acre, but say, you live in the suburbs and you have a small property, a small cottage style garden that can produce so much, even in that little space. You're not going to be able to 100% live off that, but you can supplement your diet and also supplement your hobbies and activities with the gardening, and just getting you're getting exposure to the weather, the sun, the health benefits, the mental clarity, and it's really like therapy being out there working on the garden. So think about where you fall as far as that spectrum of, say, apartment grower to farmer, where you may fall in between, and then we're going to create kind of a plan around that. And then we'd have yearly short-term seasonal plans, weekly plans, long-term plans, and just kind of build one day, one season at a time. All right, I hope that was helpful. Have a great day.